Matterpod. Oregon.
All right, good morning, everyone. So before we get started, we're just gonna roll the little intro video. I'll bring small cap up, and then we'll get started. So let's cue the thing. Intro video playing now.
GM Anon, welcome to today's episode of Market Capping. Before we begin, I just wanted to remind you that I'm not your mom, and nor are any of the speakers on this show. Nothing you hear today is financial advice. You should be a big kid now. Make your own decisions, do your own research, and assume every crypto coin you buy will result in complete losses. If you ever plan on holding anyone other than yourself responsible for your choices, please navigate to the top of your browser window where you'll find the friendly red close button. And now, let the episode begin.
Boom. All right, small cap. Want to give us a little sound check?
Check one, check two. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I think we're all good to go. So welcome everyone to today's episode of Market Capping. I think it's been a lifetime and a half since we did the last one. Markets just went to shit and everyone ran away, including ourselves. But hey, we're back and better than ever. So I think we have a lot in this episode, from the new DEX launches to takes on taxes to RFV plays to undervalued trades to NFT farms. I think it might take us a while to get through it all, but we should probably just get going. Where you want to start, sir?
It's up to you. I think a lot to cover. Yeah, I mean, happy to dive into almost any of it. So
okay, cool.
Anywhere particular you want to start?
Why don't we start with, I wanted to cover some Coinbase ETH, like ST ETH kind of staking derivative stuff, and then we can go into taxes and that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Let's do that.
Cool. Okay, so first thing I want to kind of just talk about was stake. Would you have any staked ETH, by the way? Or are you mostly just like avoiding that whole narrative?
I'm in and out. So like I do it for yield farming here and there.
Right.
But for the most part, like I don't really just have like staked ETH. No.
Yeah.
So I like ST ETH and farm with it, but that's about it.
Right. Okay, cool. So what I've been doing is, so I've been like DCAing ETH. I think we talked about on the last episode, and I didn't quite finish my DCA, but I got a pretty good amount. And then I realized, okay, I got a bunch of ETH now. How am I supposed to get yields on it? And what I was doing is I was putting it into a cross. So a cross was a pretty good pre-farm, but do you remember what happened? So what happened was they essentially raised at a $200 million cap. So I thought the pre-farm was really good because it came out to like being a 40% APR on your ETH if you were holding if the token launched at the cap they raised at. But then the token launched and everyone just kind of mass dumped it, and it ended up trading down to a 50 mil cap. So the yields in a cross ended up kind of not being as good as I thought they would be. But still today you can get something like 10 to 12% on ETH. So it's a pretty safe, easy place to put your ETH. But it turns out that there's a lot of staked ETH derivatives that give you better yields. So how that works is you buy like staked ETH or Coinbase ETH or someone that will stake your ETH for you, and then you still get the like rebases, which is essentially as the validator earns ETH, your staked position is going to earn ETH, right? And if you take the yields on that and add them to the yields that like Aura or Curve or someone else will give you, and then you also add DPEG yields, they end up being really good. So the one I wanted to kind of walk through today was Coinbase ETH. So let me just try to bring up my browser here. It's been a while since I've done this. Oh, sweet, it worked. Okay, so I like this website, cbeth-rates.vercel.app. Some dev just like quickly spun it together. But how it works is it just helps you figure out what the peg mismatch is on Coinbase ETH. So right now, Coinbase ETH is trading at 0.96 ETH, and so it's 4% off. Now, what most people don't realize is unlike STETH or unlike Frax ETH, Coinbase ETH is actually non-rebasing. So that means each Coinbase ETH is worth more than one ETH. So one Coinbase ETH is actually worth 1.02 actual ETH. And what happens
Can you
is...
explain that? I don't know if I get that. Like, so instead of rebasing it, just doubling your position.
It accrues its value. Yeah. So what happens is like how I take 32 ETH and I put them into an ETH validator. That ETH validator earns ETH rewards. So what Lido will do is they'll take your STETH and they'll rebase more STETH to you to represent those validator rewards. So your balance of STETH will grow. What Coinbase ETH does is they just increase the value of Coinbase ETH, but they don't increase it like on the market. What will happen is when the unlock happens, so once all that ETH is claimable, which is supposed to be in the next 4 to 6 months, I think, you will be able to claim the pegged amount of Coinbase ETH for every ETH for every Coinbase ETH you have. So if I have one Coinbase ETH, I will be able to claim 1.02 ETH once the validators start unlocking their ETH, which is in 4 to 6 months. Right? Make sense? So what people aren't realizing is by buying Coinbase ETH, because it's so far off peg, you're getting this implicit yield of it repegging. And the only bet you're making is that Coinbase will actually give you your ETH for your Coinbase ETH once the validators unlock and the unlock actually happens, right? But if you're buying STETH, you're basically already betting that's going to happen anyway. So in this case, since it's at a 4.1% discount, if you assume it's going to take you 4 months to repeg, right? 4 months is like 1/3 of a year. You're basically getting an implicit like 12% APR just in the peg offset, right? So that alone is really good. Then on top of that, you're going to get the validator rewards, which I think are something like 10% APR. So let's call that like already 22%. And then on top of that, I noticed there's this Aura farm. So if you go to Aura, there's this new STETH CBETH pool, and it's paying right now 7%, but I guess they like bribed it a little more, or not everyone has transitioned to the new Aura pools. But I think next week or in 2 weeks, whenever this kicks in, based on the current TVL, it'd be another 25%. So right now, like being a CBETH, WSTETH, LP is crazy good value, especially on the CBETH side, because you end up getting like a total of like 50% APR on your ETH, and it's not like some risky degen like farming pool Ponzi type thing. It's literally just ETH rewards plus people were selling off their Coinbase ETH. I don't know why. Plus Aura BAL rewards. So putting those three things together made this really attractive. So I started buying a bunch of CB ETH. The way I kind of track it is if you go on like a DEX screener or something like that, and you just look up CB ETH and you go to the CB ETH LP pool, the best thing to do is click this little switch price to ETH, and you can see its peg.
Where it is peg.
Exactly. So it's at 0.97, and it's supposed to be, if you go to that Vercel link, you can see what it's actually supposed to be worth. I lost it. Yeah, here. It's actually supposed to be worth 1.02. So I think a lot of people in DeFi think it's supposed to be worth 1, but it's actually 1.02 because it doesn't act like all the rest of them. So there's a really good arb there. So yeah, that's that trade.
That's actually awesome alpha. Like, yeah, I actually didn't know that. So that's all news to me. I did look at the Oracle, but like I didn't realize it rebased differently. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't rebase. It just accrues rewards.
Are you worried about the unlocks coming up or like exiting?
No.
Like I mean, just because I know you're probably not, but do you see any issues coming with that? Like you're such a long-term holder in like Maxi that like I figure you're not, but like I mean I think it was March that they were pushing for rewards, and I believe that the Ethereum Foundation said that they were like prioritizing that dev work just because they started to say ETH was a security because they weren't letting people out of their staking positions. So I think that's a top priority. So I think that's coming sooner rather than later. But like I know there's an exit queue, and like getting out of some of those positions might be either harder than some people expect. But like curious, I guess your thoughts on it, or if you've looked into that piece of it for Coinbase.
Yeah. So if you look at the ETH, I wish I had it on me right now. I don't know if I can quickly Google it. Exit queue. But like last time, I think we talked about it. You could see that most of the ETH when it got locked up was like ETH was far more expensive than 1.2K, right? It was like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. Now suddenly it's unlocking. Do you think the people who are like savvy enough to lock their ETH into validators, or people who are like that long-term minded on ETH to even lock it for like 6 months, 8 months at much higher prices are now going to get ETH at like 1,200 and just start dumping it? I personally think no. And I also think that the ones that did want liquidity or did want to dump it probably would have got ST ETH or would have got Coinbase ETH or these liquid staking derivatives. And if they had to sell, they already sold. So that was like 3AC and those kind of folks. So I think what will happen is there'll be this huge narrative where, oh my God, all this ETH is coming into the market. Everyone gets scared, and a lot of people will start shorting it. And you can play that narrative if you want, but it will be the bullish unlocking meme where it'll unlock and then it'll be a lot of nothing, and then everyone will have to close their shorts, and we'll get like a little bit of a send actually. At least that's my like hopium. But I do think that like there's not really a lot of people left to sell. Everyone has mostly already sold, and even if you didn't want to sell, you sold, right? Like you put your money in FTX, you sold it. You didn't know, but Sam sold it for you. So now there's a lot of people actually that kind of need to get their positions back, if anything. So I'm like long-term bullish.
I actually never thought of that. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and then based on rates or whatever, maybe we go down again to like 1K. But I don't think like we're gonna ever get $400, $500 ETH or anything along those lines. Like I'll accumulate out of my mind and go to zero, and maybe that's a gamble. But I've always been ETH maxi. It's kind of what got me here. And I think if you look at like the burn rates, oh shit, sorry.
Yeah, I just had it up.
Yeah, if you look at the burn rates, it's really good, right? Like ETH supply went ultrasound before, but now it's back to like positive, but it's stayed pretty flat since the merge, right? And if you look at this like simulate button, if we didn't have the merge happen, we would have had another like 100,000 ETH in circulation, which is a lot more, right? And in that same time, like 20,000 Bitcoins have been printed. So if this continues to be flat or even burns, or even if it slowly grows, I think we can just wait it out, let the unlock happen, let everyone freak out, and then as long as activity comes back to Ethereum and people want to use blockchains, this like Ethereum Ponzi is gonna be unreal. Like if we were burning like this in the bull market and we get the chance again, it'll be crazy.
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
Yeah, I'm bullish.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm bullish. I'm excited. I'm staked. I'm yielding like mad, especially in this Coinbase ETH trade, because I'm getting the 12% for free APR on the peg. I'm getting all the validator rewards, and I'm getting Aura fees. So it's just really good. The only downside I would say about Coinbase ETH is they take a 20% fee on the validator rewards when like Lido and the others take a 10% fee on the validator rewards. But I think it's like marginal. Like 20% of the 10% is 2%, or 10% of the 20% of the 10% is 1%. So it's just 1% versus 2%. The overall repegging of it is just worth a lot more anyways. I think I will sell it out once we get closer to like the peg anyway, for another one with cheaper staking fees. But until then, why not?
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, all of those like different stake derivatives of ETH have been like huge earners for. I think like really when you talk to like Solar Curve or some of the balancer guys, that's been like what they've really built the entire business off of. They earn so many fees because people swap in and out with size. And like I'd expect it to be honestly a bullish narrative heading into really the unlocks for Aura and really Balancer as a whole. But I mean, we can dive into some of that in a bit. But
all right, why don't we hit on taxes? That was your first topic.
Yeah, so I know one of the things I said I would talk about was like 2023 narratives, and one of the things that I think myself and a ton of others have been spending probably too much time on is really just really taxes, like heading into the end of the year, trying to get everything shirt away. And I mean, just from like one of the from the standpoint of somebody who lives in the U.S., I think a lot of people who are international don't realize some of the implications that come from living in the U.S. and being taxed at different rates. So one of the narratives that has been hit on like so heavily is really RealYield, of where you can earn fees from any type of protocol that prints maybe ETH or USDC or whatever it might be, and like you take those out as a payment. But in the U.S., all of those are taxed as income. So what that means is, like, say I've been earning ETH as a reward all year from either, it could be Butterfly, it could be LooksRare, it could be any of those protocols. And I'm taxed on 30% plus income as soon as I actually claim those rewards. So I think a lot of people are in for a pretty rude awakening when they get their tax bills and realize that, hey, if I claimed some of this ETH at $4,000 and it's now $1,000, I'm still taxed at some of those higher rates. So you could owe more in taxes than some of the tokens are worth. But I think a lot more protocols are going to have to think about those things too. Like, is RealYield really worth it, or is printing your own token? So I could think of a few examples off the top of my head where you lock the token for 4 years and then they print their own token back to those people who have locked. I mean, that's kind of a pointless scenario of like reprinting tokens to people who are in locked positions. Like, cutting out emissions as much as possible. I think the last bull run was really fueled by just endless APRs and people like chasing yield. But like when everybody's taxed at 30% on that, it works when the market's going up because you get capital gains afterwards and you're not really worried about the tax from when you claimed everything. But on the way down, people could have millions of dollars in taxes that they owe just because they were claiming and compounding endlessly on the entire way down of the market. So I think when, like, the reason I bring that up is going forward, I think like kind of what I'm looking for in protocols in 2023 has changed a bit. Like, I think it's going to head a little bit more towards like corporate structures of like U.S. companies where you look for things like Burns, which is pretty much like a stock buyback, where you look for things that don't have tons of emissions, because then you know that as you claim, the price isn't going to be dropping. So you're more likely to hold a token if you think the price is going to go up. I mean, which also helps with Burns. So like the heavily inflationary tokens, I think you're going to get double screwed because people are going to have to dump them for taxes, and they're going to become a lot more aware after this cycle or this year of how much they still owe. But also, like, I think going forward, there's going to be more projects and DAOs and just DeFi in general that looks for different ways to get around some of that. So
that was when it comes to those emissions, like those were the two big lessons I learned, I would say, in the last year. If I'm trying to help projects design their tokenomics, one was, like you said, if you give stakers your own native token, but it's kind of just printed, it matters a lot less. What each user should be caring about is how much of the total circulating network they own, or how much of the staked network they own, like what percent, right? And if you're just emitting tokens to people and they're just simply retaining their same percent ownership, it's not really good. Or if you're emitting tokens to people and unlocking VCs and so they're losing percent ownership, it's not really good to hold the token. Where it
Yeah.
is good to give people tokens is when people use your token for fees, and then you give those people the token they paid in fees. So essentially, by being staked, I'm earning more and more of the network, and it's not like coming from nowhere. It's coming from actual buy pressure or actual users that are using the project, right? And you see that happening in Ethereum, where it's like people are using Ethereum, they pay fees to use Ethereum, and then those fees come to the stakers. So in that case, it's okay to be getting the native token because I'm actually owning more of the network instead of losing my control of the network, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's like the key differentiator when I'm getting native tokens.
I think that's the biggest thing is being able to offset some of the inflation too, though. Like I think that's the narrative that like ETH really gets right. Is like you're looking at ultrasound money, and we just chatted about it for ETH. I think more projects need to target that. Of, hey, how do we keep our supply? Like you need to make sure that you still have emissions. Like I disagree kind of with the Wi-Fi model of like, hey, we're not going to have any emissions at all. And the reason behind that is you can run into a ton of governance issues. If somebody just accumulates 51%, or like is accumulating like crazy, like they're not getting diluted at all. So like I feel like you need emissions to make sure that you're not being like governance attacked by somebody who just over time keeps accumulating, either in quiet or in the public eye. I mean, I just went through the entire VE BAO situation, which is a massive mess, where Humpy like tried to just accumulate as much as possible, like pretty much tried to 51% attack Balancer. But part of that is because they had so much liquidity. Like if you're VE BAO, you actually are placing into an 80-20 balancer ETH pool.
Yeah.
So like he can accumulate as much as possible because the more you lock, the more liquidity is for there to be pulled out. So I think like there's issues with models like that, but it's the same thing if you don't have emissions. So like I think going forward, I think a lot more projects need to concentrate on having steady emissions, and rewarding, as you said, people who are actually using the network, but also finding ways to burn some of those tokens so that like supply just isn't endlessly heading towards billions, and like there's a good way to hold that token value so people who are claiming rewards aren't just going to be dumping.
I would say for like how you should see emissions is seeing it like acquisition costs. And I think what we found out in the last few years is those acquisition costs ended up being way too high, right? In traditional startups, there's a metric called your CAC, which is customer acquisition cost, and basically you want that acquisition cost to be less than the lifetime value, which is like the LTV of a user. So you have to think, how much money am I going to make from having this person use my protocol, and then how much am I willing to pay to get them to try it, and then what's my percentage chance of keeping them and having them actually spend that much on my protocol so I'm profitable. And as long as people are emitting that acquisition cost or that amount, which is lower than how much money they're going to make for them, it's very safe and healthy. And I think if you look at how much we ended up paying in acquisition costs for a lot of these users, it's actually absurd, right? And that's why these airdrops ended up being really bad models. And Across really helped me see that. Like, how much Across had to pay in token emissions to get me to be an LP was actually very expensive compared to other projects. So should they have done it? I don't know. Maybe they should have, maybe they shouldn't have. But after seeing how much their token got dumped after, it created a negative feedback loop that it probably wasn't worth paying so much to get those users.
And I'd love to dive into that deeper too. Like we'll get to that with some of the DEXs. That brings up a great point. And I think the only other thing I'll say is like I mean, it's almost coming full circle where we're talking about like projects that printed entirely too much and like people getting screwed on taxes. Like almost one of those models as well. Like I mean, like where they had like insane APYs. Like people were claiming the price is meant to go towards zero.
Right.
But also like when I look at like things of like my short checklist of what I want to see in a project, like they've fixed almost all of those things. So I'm almost like
Let's talk about them.
because they're farming for you. So like they have their basket of assets of like, hey, we're gonna farm everything in DeFi, only the blue chips. We're gonna like handle all of the risk for you, and then like also we're gonna make it a price floor. So like the like really as we farm and the actual value of the treasury goes up, like the price is only gonna rise. So it takes away like all of that, like I want to say tax burden and claiming like nonstop rewards from all of these projects, and they do it for you. And then you have something like Geom where you're getting all the rebases too. Like you're not actually getting screwed, and it becomes a very, very nice model for like people who are looking to like long-term hold, like have exposure to the space, but also not just get crushed as everything sort of trends towards zero. So
So
I mean, I really am coming
hold
full
on.
circle
Is there
on that.
anywhere I can see where Olympus is farming? Because I remember I I
Yeah.
recently rebought Ohm like in the last 2 weeks because it was just so far off peg. So what happened was, so Ohm is backed.
It's like
Ohm is
treasury.
So Ohm here
Um,
is backed by $10.36 per Ohm, and then it traded down to like $7. Yeah, here some guy sold a bunch. It traded to like 740. So I was buying I think here. So I bought this pretty aggressively, and I bought a little bit in here. And I'm waiting for it to go back to peg, and then I was kind of just gonna sell it. But they did a lot of work to make their like range thicker. So if you go to this range tab, you can see. But
Yep.
now Olympus can't go it's really hard for it to go below 950 because they made the range really tight. I think there's like $30 million of buy pressure or something like that automatically by the protocol in here. So I feel very safe holding Ohm and using it as collateral. So that's why I bought a bunch. And the protocol itself will sell around $11. So I'd be looking to sell around this like 1040 range, 1050 range. But I think what you're saying is really interesting. I didn't realize that they were farming with the treasury as well, and I would get all of those growing yields too. So if that's the case, then it'd be cool to be able to hold Ohm and borrow against it, because I think that's what Temple's trying to do as well.
That's happening. Yeah.
So is
Yeah. Go
that
ahead.
where do I see that? Like in the transparency tab? Do you know?
I just sent you the treasury reserves. Like what it. You
Oh,
can
nice.
actually scroll
Okay.
through it. It'll show you the assets like liquidity, but like also they evaluate different places to put the capital, so you can kind of break
Here
down
it
like
says they have like
backing.
$115 million of DAI.
Exactly, but a lot of those are farming too. But they do a
Is
lot
it
of the risk
farming?
analysis for you.
Okay.
I can't see your screen as of right now, but
Oh, okay. But
I didn't
on
have
their
both
website,
up.
yeah, on the website it doesn't show. But I would just look into that. Like if they are farming, maybe there's a no. Okay. If they are farming, I would look at what kind of yields they're getting, and if they're getting good yields, then you have to also remember that with Ohm, you have to pay for the team too. So what I usually do in these situations is I look at how much yield are they earning, and in terms of raw dollars, and then I look at what are their yearly salaries, and then I subtract the yearly salaries from how much yield they're earning, and then I take that and divide it by the treasury, and then that's the true yield I expect my like Geom backing to increase by. And if salaries are higher than treasury, then it's actually shrinking. And if it's about the same, then I'm not getting any yield for it. I remember historically, the Ohm narrative was like, we don't yield farm, we don't want to farm because like we're a reserve currency. That's not our goal, and that's why I started liking Temple a little more because they were pushing more towards like farming and trying to get you the best yields possible. But in this case, if they are farming, I would love to see like a full breakdown. I'll look into that for the next episode.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to cover. But it makes me bullish on like
Yeah,
Geom and like some of those I would say some of the different products they're launching too.
yeah, and
I
they even have a Fraxland market now. Did you see that? So if you want to borrow against your
I didn't.
Geom, it's actually not too expensive. It's 6%. It costs you 6%, and you can get Frax against it at oh, I don't know where that went.
I don't I don't really want to chat through it deeply, but because I haven't done much research, but I saw that Silo Finance, which I'm not really familiar with, has a market for it as well.
Oh, nice.
So like I've never used it though, so like everybody use your own risk or
Yeah, I haven't tried
if
Silo
you're,
either.
yeah,
No, but
but
that's
I
really
know they
good.
have no market. And like I think ideally it'd be nice if you can like lend against a lend against Geom, because then once again you're not really taxed on like lending borrowing
Hmm.
in the U.S. So as that position grows like beneath it, you can actually borrow more and more, and you're actually not taxed on the actual loan that you're taking out. So
Right.
that's good stuff, and like one of the narratives that I'm looking for.
Yeah, all of
Um,
them are doing this. Even Temple, they just announced this. This thing here, their new token setup, which is called Ramos. But basically, if anyone wants to read through this, I'll give you the TLDR, which is Temple is going to earn yield and then buy back the Temple token until it equals the treasury. So you no longer need to stake your Temple tokens. Instead, the number will just go automatically up. And the reason for that is literally the same thing Small Cap was just saying, which is because of taxes. So instead of having to be staked, number automatically goes up. And now their goal is to take that Temple and make it easy for you to borrow against. So it seems like Temple and Ohm are both doing very similar things, which is make our token like a currency that automatically grows based on yield farming, and then in the background build various businesses that deliver extra value to holders. So for Olympus, I guess that's the bond protocol and things like that. And for Temple, it's things like their new version of Stacks or whatever that may be.
Yeah, 100%. And I do think like I have a lot to cover on DEXs, but like also like just that conversation right there, it makes me like another kind of 2023 narrative that I see picking up is really the lending and borrowing space. In the past, like I feel like it hasn't been a super diluted space because there is so much risk. Like Aave does an amazing job. Like it's like what QI I think is called on.
Yeah.
Chi on AVAX has done a great job, and there's some new ones. Tapioca is about to launch. Like I guess Silo's out. But like I think those protocols are going to start to have much larger margins as interest rates keep going up. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. Like if there's ways that you can get better rates on chain, like I can see that like driving maybe even the next bull run. If like there gets to a point where it's so much more efficient on chain to really take out loans or borrow against assets, even if it is like USDC or Bitcoin or whatever it might be, like I think there's bigger profit margins when interest rates are rising so heavily. So it's not really slim margins there.
And it's going to come on chain. The number of projects I've talked to that are like, oh, we want to bring treasuries on chain is crazy. Because now that these treasury rates are so high, I think even Maker said they're looking into it. So you can essentially get like worst case treasury yields, or I think someone will launch a stable coin where it's like, okay, we deposit into treasuries and then you can use the stable coin. Although I think KYC and legals become a mess, but someone is bound to figure that out.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, or arbitrage will solve it or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's a big narrative too. Like whoever solves that, I think first, like they get a pretty nice head start. So I'm sure multiple people are working on it.
Yeah. Okay. You want to go to the next topic? Should we do DEXs or should we do nouns?
Let's do nouns.
Okay.
I'm excited to hear your topics on this one. So
yeah. So I've been kind of going deep on nouns ecosystem. So the reason I did this was because with Anata, so we use this thing called Prop House. Have you heard of Prop House?
I don't know anything about that.
Oh, it's really cool. So basically what projects can do. I keep clicking the intro instead. Hello, Brett. Prop House. Okay, so what Prop House is Nouns. The Nouns DAO built this, but you can essentially your project can put up some ETH, and then people can come propose really small ideas, and then your holders can vote, and then they win that ETH. And you run these little small rounds where it's round 1, put up ideas, round 2, come claim your ETH for the top ones. So what we did was we tested it. We said, okay, we're going to give 3 ETH grants out. And between November 28th, December 5th, you can come propose to us what you will do with a 3 ETH grant. And we ended up with 50 plus proposals. Like, this is crazy because in Nada's entire history, I think we've gotten like 10 real proposals. To get like 50 in the span of a week just because we did it on Prop House with 3 ETH grants, with small grants, was really, really nice. And then our holders came along and voted, and then these 3 things won. So someone's going to take their 3 ETH and make a plushies program, someone's going to make a music video, and someone's going to start this like little streaming show, which is really cool, and they're all going to get 3 ETH each for it. So for really cheap, we got a lot of value. And I was like, okay, what is this thing? Like, how come it works so well? And I saw it was made by Nouns DAO. So then I was like, okay, let me get a noun because they're obviously doing something right. So I got myself my first noun. And then...
Did you buy it on secondary or did you do it?
No, I did the auction. I won. I'll show you the one I won. Frick, the website is so slow. I won't show you the one I won.
So,
but then I realized, hold on, that the treasury was completely off. Like, there's 28,500 ETH in here, and there's 548 nouns. So I was like, wait, what's going on? 20,500 over 548 is like 52, right? So they're like 52 ETH backing, quote unquote backing. Like, I didn't know how they saw it per noun, but each noun sells for like 30-ish ETH right now. So there's obviously like a almost 100%, like 70% mismatch here, 70% upside, just if Nouns traded to book value. So then from there, I bought like 4 or 5 more, and then I started really learning about Nouns. So what happened was Nouns deleted their Discord, and that's why they ended up trading so cheaply, is because the community just got like exploded. And it kind of feels like all these little pieces that need to come together to recreate their community. And what happened is there's like little Telegram groups of like DeFi Nowners, there's Telegram groups of regular Nowners, there's this one Discord called The Jungle where there's a lot of people that don't have Nouns but are requesting money from Nouns holders, which has kind of become the go-to place to chit-chat. Or like the new chord. And then there's Twitter, which is where a lot of the team spends their time in like Twitter Spaces, hanging out and things like that. And so this fragmented community really created this problem in my mind.
That's fair. So so here's how I look at Nouns, and I'd love your take on this too.
Yeah.
Is like, even if you think it trades below book value, because there's one a day, like I look at that because I'm just a DeFi guy, but I look at that as like so much inflation. Like in the next year, there's going to be an extra like what, almost 50% more Nouns. So if I buy today, like how many buyers are going to be able to afford 33 per day? So I feel like it's meant to trade down over time. And like that, I could be wrong here, and I also don't follow Nouns super closely. The way I've looked at it always is like, hey, this is like very inflationary. And then on top of that, there's not really a great way to get the money back out. So it's like, all right, like I'm buying a Noun, and maybe that was 70 ETH like a year ago. Now it's 35 ETH. Technically, I've lost half my value, but like, what have I gotten out of owning the ETH or owning the Noun? So like, I think in my mind, I'm like, how do I get value out of this? And part of it could be the community, all of the tools that they have, like them helping your projects, and like also having such a massive treasury. But like as a holder, I don't know where I would personally get the value out of it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So I love this discussion. So Nouns is very different than a regular DeFi project because it's not DeFi, right? It's not like we're earning revenue and you get that revenue. It's not like there's crazy emissions that you get. There's no staking Ponzi. It's even different than most NFTs in the sense of like, for example, in ADA, our goal is to make the best identity. And that means we spend all of our money on making more and more and more art and more identity stuff for our holders. So if you hold an ADA, you're going to get a chibi, you're going to get a beautiful new PFP, you're going to get a 3D VRM model, you're going to get upgrades to the base thing. Like we're going to make it better and better and better till it's like the best NFT in existence. Like that's our goal, right? Nouns' goal is to make the best meme. Like they want to create a brand in a sense, right? And they think that if they can create this brand, then people will want to have Nouns. And in order to create this brand, what they want to do is they call it proliferating the meme or doing things that are Nounish. And the idea of that is they will build projects that are public goods. So they'll build something like Prop House, and that will get people to learn about Nouns and get excited by Nouns. For example, because I use Prop House, I was personally like, wow, I really love this brand. I love that they created this. I'd love to be part of this DAO. I want to get one, right? Or another idea is they sponsor skateboarders. So they're sponsoring like Bob Burnquist, or I don't even know how to say his name. But he's like
Burnquist, yeah.
Bob something, right? He's like the second biggest skateboarder in the world, and he's like Nouns sponsored. And so he has like videos with his Nouns skateboard or with his Nouns glasses, and he helps run this like sub DAO called NounsDAO, right? Or right now they're currently voting on restoring this basketball court. So they're going to take this basketball court and they're going to like turn it into a Nouns basketball court, and there's influencers with like 3 million followers, something like that are going to post about it. And it's cool because if my internet was actually working or if the site was loading, you could see exactly how it'll get spent. But you can see that like, okay, we're going to pay the influencer like 30 grand to post about it. So it's a lot of transparency, and it's fun because it's one of the first places where I've seen real DAO movement, in the sense of the team has like 10% of votes, but they don't often vote on stuff. And there's no like massive supply like yielding to a certain person. Like, and as new people join, they get control with their new buys, or you have to continuously buy to have more and more. So you can't just like buy and keep your governance control. the DAO really does like vote and make decisions, and every vote can sway or move the outcome. So it's a really nice DAO in that sense. Now the only thing is it's priced wrong, right? And like you were saying, is when I put my ETH in, I can't get my ETH out. And so that's the idea of rage quit. And what I noticed from Nouns is we kind of are here in this time where markets are so bad that these things trade at half of their cash. People believe they're going to lose half their money before they're able to proliferate the meme, before more people are going to want Nouns, before they trade to like a high value like Bored Apes and Punks and things like that. But if you look at the proposals coming up, which one am I looking for here? Discourse. They're actually contemplating doing a rage quit, so you could get your money out fairly. So there's this proposal here called Verbs. Here, Verbs. So these guys are on the Nouns team. This is the Verbs team, and they are working in progress on rage quit. And here there's like already like they're pretty deep in on this doc with like all of the details. Okay, thank you, Google. With all the details on how it'll work. And their current recommendation is to have a 0 penalty rage quit. So at any time you could burn your Noun and claim the amount of ETH backing it.
That's so cool.
Right now there's a huge arb. Like you buy Noun for 35 ETH and you burn it and get 50 ETH, right? But the question is this going to pass? Are they going to spend a bunch of the ETH before that happens? Are you going to get diluted a bunch? So I wouldn't say you should buy it for the arb, but I do think if there was ever a time where you wanted a Noun, now is probably a good time, given that you can have say in this mechanism to ensure you're not going to lose money, but you can also get a Noun for like far lower than book, just in case this does happen. And if you do get frustrated, you could rage quit. But I would recommend joining, so this guy, the guy organizing it, the Verbs team, his name is Elad, I think. Yeah, Elad. And he's doing a spaces that he asked me to join. I'm going to join it tomorrow. Here, he tweeted about it.
Yeah.
But I would come listen in on this space here.
I mean, my thought on that would just be like, I think the time to join as soon as it's right back at book value. And that sounds crazy, but like, because like people would have the chance to leave. Like I feel like as it starts to go, all the pressure's off of it then.
Yeah.
And like, also like I would think the price in auctions keep going down and down and down until like it actually reaches right back at book value. Because if you buy now and then you have 100 days of new auctions where like people are buying, like that's inflation, so there's going to be worth less because you're owning less of like the share of the DAO. So like I would think it's like right at that point where like they are at book value. But that's interesting. No, I didn't know any of that was going on. And I mean, I will shout them out. Like I thought the fact that they got like the Bud Light Super Bowl commercial was pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I mean, that I guess favors your brand conversation.
That's what they're trying to do, right? Create a brand. But some of their stuff is like some of their spends are absolutely bogus, like the fashion show they did, or like they spent $1 million on a parade. I don't know how that's going to work out. Or they wanted to sponsor like a donut for like 50 grand. Or like there's this like worst case behavior one that I hate. But I think that's the point of the DAO is like some of the things I'm going to hate, some of the things I'm going to love. I love the idea of rage quit. I love the things like Prop House where they're actually like building stuff like the public goods, infrastructure. I love how like decentralized it really is. I hate some of the other stuff, but I guess that's the point, right? And I think like the reason I bought one was Prop House, but then I got a few more because, hey, maybe I'll be able to get this rage quit and I can push it along and there might be an arb there. But it's been a fun DAO to get involved with, and it really feels DAO-ish. I don't know how to vocalize that properly, but it does feel like a bunch of random cartoon characters around the world like really fighting over how to use this treasury, and it's crazy and nasty and dirty, but it's like fun to be involved. So I like it. It's been an interesting project for me at least.
One of the things that you should keep up with too, that it's probably worth it for even the conversations that you're about to go into, is like if you look at some of the commentary from like regulators based off of like the ETH merge. And like how they're saying it's a security now because people are locked into their positions and don't like have like are capable of getting their money back. Like I think like that's going to become a big RFE conversation too. Of these people are putting into treasuries like similar to Nouns. Of like I think they're going to highlight that there's a good chance if there isn't a way to rage quit or get your capital back out, that you are betting on a long-term investment. So like that makes it a security. So like I think like that's something to consider for like a lot of the DAOs and like even yourself as you're like diving into some of those conversations, that like if ETH is taking it seriously and they're prioritizing like exits for people who are staking because of that, like I'm assuming that there's some regulation coming down the pipe that will hit sooner rather than later based on it. But that's all good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Somewhat bullish on Nouns. So I'll have to at least.
There we go. Hey, slowly I'm
Unintended.
making more and more nouners. But I think the noun people don't like when I make more nouners because I'm like a very like DeFi kind of guy too. And I would be for the rage quit proposal just because it's like half of book value, you know. If it was like trading around there 10% below, I'd be like, nah, there's no point. Like let's keep proliferating the meme. But I think it's kind of at the point where it's like, okay, there's a reason they trade at half, but people are a bit upset. Maybe you don't want so much angst in the DAO. This could be a nice way to just like flush it out, clear it, and people that want to continue proliferating the meme, and those that are a little frustrated are happy, are cool, are able to move on. It's also, they've been phrasing it as really good for going full decentralized, because right now the treasury has a veto where the nounders or whatever can veto any proposal, and they say that's for security, so no one can steal it. But the rage quit would mean that you could drop the veto and not have the security issue, because if there was ever a vote to steal the whole treasury, people could just rage quit and leave. So it's an interesting conversation, interesting balance. I'd say it's one of the more fun and cool places to be, at least in NFT land or in crypto land right now. It's a good experiment.
Yeah, agreed. Anything else on Nouns?
No, that's it on Nouns. I could probably talk all day, but I want to waste all the time. What's the next thing you wanted to hit on? Let's talk about those DEXs incoming.
Yeah, one of the things that I had set aside or said that I would talk through is just I've been spending a lot of time looking through different DEXs and like narratives that are going on with them across chains. I think there's starting to be a lot of very good deals out there. I think most of them are starting to look like they're somewhat close to bottoming, but like very, very much so been like tracking, I think, a lot of the main DEXs and then like looking into some of the L2s for deals and stuff like that as well. But I mean, like if you take a look, like I don't know if you can pull up.
Yeah, which one you want? DeFi Llama or CoinGecko?
Let's go like CoinGecko.
Cool. Yeah.
Try to pull it up on my end.
GM.
But like looking through like different DEXs, seeing like what kind of volumes they have on a day-to-day basis, I think is huge, because that shows that either like they're actually being leveraged like by a lot of users, or they have a lot of big users that are generating fees. But like I was even pretty surprised looking through like the CoinGecko of where some of these stood. So like I mean, if you look through 24-hour volumes, like one, I have no idea what Apex Pro is. Do you know what that is?
No idea.
Yeah, no idea. So I don't know if that's like a real thing, but probably something worth looking into. But like when you look at like the top DEXs, I mean, you have Uniswap, Curve, and Balancer. Balancer's doing like over $100 million like in 24-hour volume. That's pretty impressive, and a lot of that's like different Aave and stables, and they've been moving up that list like crazy. PancakeSwap's up there. I wouldn't have thought Dodo was up there as an aggregator. Like I've used Dodo like once or twice, but like I was almost completely off my radar, so I added it back to my list. ThorSwap's been flying up on daily volumes because of the native staking and being able to like not use wrap tokens and bridges. It's becoming quite the narrative. So like these are all ones that I'm tracking based off of some of the volumes. But like I think like this is only part of the actual conversation when you're looking at, all right, where are all the volumes happening on all these different DEXs? When you look at the different values of them, like it almost blows my mind how different the values of these projects are compared to their volume. So like, I mean, personally, I think like I'm obviously I love Balancer and I love Aura and I have positions in both, but I also think like it's super undervalued when you look at it compared to the competition. So it's doing like $100 million in volume. I mean, Uniswap's doing like 500 million. But with that said, it actually has like fees paid out to users. Like you have VE BAL where you can help really point liquidity to different pools. You get a lot more actual bang for your buck than something like Uni. But like, I mean, Balancer sitting at like $209 million market cap and about 500 million FDV. When you compare that to like some of the competition, it just like blows my mind. Like Uni's a $4 billion market cap and 5 billion FDV. So it's like 10% of the FDV of Uniswap. And Curve is like 1.85 billion FDV and 364 million market cap. Curve has a lot more volumes and like a massive TVL, but still, like when you like value it from an FDV perspective, which I think more and more people are doing, because of like heavy emissions and things along those lines, like it's still 4 times cheaper than Curve. So I think like honestly, it's very undervalued where it sits. But that's one I've been keeping my eye on from an ETH perspective.
This comes down to like remember the principle we were talking about before of like acquisition cost versus lifetime value. I think where a lot of people get confused is you look at volumes, but you don't look at like how much fees those volumes are keeping, right? So if you look at something like what did Hummus fork? What's the project they forked?
Platypus.
Platypus, right? Like Platypus has a fuck ton of volume, but all of their volume is USDCE to USDC. It's like really bad volume on almost no fees that doesn't make them any money, right? It's like people just want to bridge back USDC to Ethereum, and it's just where most of it is. But they don't make a lot of money on it. It's like some 0.01% swap fee or something like abysmally small. So if you look at just the volume there, you think, wow, this is a great project. But if you look at how much fees they're keeping, you realize like, okay, this is not such a great project. So I think a similar thing happens in Dodo. I think they have no fee swaps on stable coins, and they have like really high slippage too on them. So there's a lot of those kind of issues that can misconstrue this metric. So the best way to look at it is to kind of say, what is the revenue they make from these swaps, or what is the revenue they could make from these swaps and still keep that, and how much do they have to pay in order to get that revenue? And then if you look at the difference between the two, you can see like, okay, is this undervalued or is it not undervalued? That's how I usually like to think about it.
No, I completely agree. And that's part of the reason that I think I really do like Balancer and the model they've taken is just because they push and like built a framework where they want to direct the emissions to the pools that actually earn the most. So like we were talking earlier on all those stake derivatives of ETH, like STETH, like they have RETH from like Rocket Pool, they have the Coinbase ETH, like all of those are massive earners because they have huge volumes. They're done in ETH. Like a lot of them do rebase. So like those are like huge earners and really top earners for Aura.
But they're paying so much. They're paying so much for those, right?
In emissions, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's what they did. They based like their emission structure of you have to be earning this much in fees to get like over 2% of emissions. So like they're rebuilt their DEX and like their framework around we are only giving like emissions
to people that are making us money.
It back in fees.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
And is it more like you have to make more fees than what we emit, or is it you can still emit way more than the fees?
It's not, because then you would cut out like new protocols almost entirely. But like it's like you can't do over 2% of emissions, I believe, on the framework. If you aren't like earning a certain amount. So like they gated a lot of those protocols, but they still want protocols to earn or buy Balancer or to direct emissions for like their protocol, even if it isn't a super heavily traded pair. So like they just want to limit how much of that's going on, and they want to be able to focus the majority of their emissions on those high earning pools. So that's one of the reasons that I was like when I really look at numbers of volumes of what they're doing and how they're like really allocating those emissions, like I feel like they're doing it correctly of pushing them towards like the high earning pools. Like I think they're setting themselves up nicely for a longer term run. And I mean, they just did the multi-chain stuff, but beside the point. I think that makes me bullish on Balancer. And the other one that's worth having a conversation around that I think is in a similar range when it comes to price is Sushi. I mean, Sushi's at like 191 million market cap and 250 million FDV. So I would say about the same market cap as Balancer, but about half the FDV.
Yeah, man.
But I think we've all been seeing all of the issues that have just been constantly highlighted from Sushi's standpoint.
Yeah, I just brought that up. It's crazy that you talk about Sushi because they're actually gonna take all the fees and they're gonna put them in the treasury instead of distributing them to users. And I think that's because it was actually losing the vote too. It just shows you about governance. And then what happened was I think some like large whales came and forced it. See it like it just won 11. It was like 58% versus 40%. and you have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 million of the yes votes. So basically all of the yes votes came from 2 people.
Yeah, and I mean that doesn't really surprise me.
That's
Based
crazy.
off of what I've seen.
That's governance for you. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean it's been heading more and more that direction as interest of users actually goes down as well. So I've seen like some ugly governance lately. But I mean that's a good point.
Yeah, Sushi just doesn't have enough money to operate, and they don't want to do a fundraise, or I think they tried to do a fundraise, but it got all messy, and then they lost leadership like 2 times or 3 times, and now people think FTX is Sushi Chef, and like they've just been through a lot of shit, right? And the fact that they're still alive and pushing makes me really excited. I kind of agree that the fees should be going to the treasury right now, just because they can't sustain themselves. Once a project can better sustain themselves, they should push more fees to users. I think a good example is to look at how Butterfly did their most recent, like RL Butterfly for fee sharing. What they did was they were like, if the treasury has X dollars, then we'll give 80% to users and 20% to us. If the treasury has Y dollars, we'll give 30% to us, 70% to users. So it just depends on like how close are we to being sustainable, and that's how much we'll keep versus how much we'll give away. And I think that's in everyone's best interest, because you want the treasury to be big, so then that way you get as many fees to yourself as possible, but it's also big enough for the business to continue surviving. Now, the only piece where that falls apart is when the business itself is spending like unreasonably. I actually saw this tweet like from the sushi guy that had like how sushi spends their money, and they seem to have like a lot of people with really high salaries. Like they're spending 500K on a single person just in salary, and that excludes sushi emissions. And I talked to someone, and they said like with the sushi emissions, this ends up almost being like 800K to $1 million, like for a single person or 2 people. And I do think it's a bit unfair to be like, oh, we're unsustainable, we don't make enough money, but by the way, we're paying ourselves like 700K to $1 million each.
I wasn't aware
can't really
they were
do
getting
both,
sushi
right?
emissions. Like I didn't know that. So like I was in the opposite camp. I was like, honestly, if you want some of the top talent in the industry, like you can pay 500K, especially when they're working on code that's pushing billions of dollars. Like, and for me, I'm like, I think it's worth it to pay the people, especially because like I was saying, I didn't think they were getting equity because they were so low on emissions.
No, there is sushi emissions too.
That's not the case. But
no, I think
I was like, you need to kind of compensate for that. But I guess I'm wrong there, so I didn't realize that.
That's just hearsay. Someone just told me that in the DM. I haven't like, checked in a lot of this. But I agree with you that salaries need to be good, but they don't need to be absurd. I think we're in a time where it's a bear market. Like you even have tech companies like Google or Facebook doing layoffs, Twitter doing layoffs, Amazon doing layoffs. I'm an engineer by trade. I work with engineers like kind of all day in my day job or whatever, and I find that it is a more competitive landscape now than it was a year ago. And I think you can get like top quality engineering talent for like 300 to 400K. Like I would assume these like top 500Ks are like CEOs and leadership, but really good engineers, you can get them for like 2 to 400K, and that includes like emissions and things like that.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think like a lot of the incentive normally is like, hey, we're gonna incentivize you through. I mean, I think of top tech companies once again, like we're gonna give you like options, or we're gonna give you a percentage of the company and let it vest. Like I think like when you just give such large salaries, like it takes away some of the incentive to work hard. Like I really wish more and more people were like, I don't really love the model of just a massive salary and that there isn't incentives for them to align with the community. So like,
that's the next step.
I like before I knew that, like, so I guess neither of us really have a great grasp on whether or not they're giving them sushi on the side. But like my thought process was like, honestly, instead of just voting for massive salaries and draining the treasury, like why not just have more emissions? Like figure out something where you can like align those, like pay the people like whatever you want to pay them, but do half of that in long-term equity so they align with the actual project. So
the key is long-term
to get around it.
So I've seen projects cheat this, where they'll say like, oh, we just want to make sure people care about the project, so we're going to give them a bunch of tokens, but they vest over a year. It's like, okay, so you only really care about the price in a year. The point,
Yeah.
when I join a startup, I get equity, but that equity is not liquid for 4 years. That equity, not even forget 4 years. The equity is not liquid until we go public or get acquired, right? So I feel like people should have big unlocks based on key events that people care about, right? Becoming liquid isn't a key event in crypto because you're liquid from day one, but what do people care about? Maybe once we're like revenue positive and emissions are lower than income for 3 months straight, then we do an unlock to the team. Or we can come up with like KPIs that matter, and then we unlock people. And I feel like that's the next step in these like token emissions or these token allocations to teams. It should be based on success users care about, not based on these like arbitrary metrics like time passing or yeah, that's the only way to do it on time passing, which is dumb, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I mean, and I will give them credit. Like I am glad that Sushi's like bringing all this stuff to light. I mean, some of it's forced because they're running out of money, but like I want to see more projects doing stuff where they're openly sharing their numbers. I think that's kind of the benefit to DeFi.
Yeah.
So like why not show your treasury? Why not like have all of your salaries public? Why not like show streams and where like all of these funds are going? Because that lack of transparency that we currently have, I think, needs to go. But I mean, like FTM and Andre just came out and like pretty much highlighted all of their numbers and how healthy they are. But I wish more projects would go that route and make it public. So like, I applaud them in doing that. Like hopefully it works out for them. I do like hope Sushi works out. Like I've always really liked it as a project, but I guess we'll like kind of wait and see on that one. But on the I guess ETH DEXs piece though. Like I haven't used Dodo a ton, but like another narrative that just popped up was 1inch was turning on fees.
Really?
I don't own any 1inch, but like they actually just announced that they were going to be turning on fee sharing. So like I think you can see some of that. Like,
I wonder if that will push people to use Matcha or something like that if they have. Is it like fees won't change, the existing fees get shared, or is it like we're adding fees now? Or adding more fees?
I believe it's existing fees get shared.
Oh, nice. So like that positive slippage or whatever that is that they take.
Exactly.
Oh,
yes,
nice.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's going to be going too. I agree, and I wonder if it's going to make a run on some of these like aggregators. Like I don't know that for like a fact, but like it has me like keeping an eye on some of these like Dodo. Like Dodo is going to feel some pressure because of it. 1inch like is doing it, so like you should possibly see some appreciation or like people doing a lot more of a deep dive on 1inch, but also like CalSwap's gotten absolutely killed. Their tokenomics are pretty awful. Like it's just pretty much like delayed all of their emissions and they're just printing like crazy. But it's like $5 million or something like that. If they did like found a way to pass on fees, like I could see like it making a comeback because there's a lot of volume that's pushed through there. So
it's a hard business.
It's just something to watch.
It's a hard business because they're in the business of saving you money, right? And if all they're saving you is the MEV is often like a very small amount of money that they save you. And so then how much fee can they really take, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on that. I could see on some of like the limit orders and different stuff that they do, like there being a little bit more of room to of them actually making more profit, but I haven't dove that far into it. I mean, it's on my list of like, hey, like as part of all these DEXs, like I want to touch on some of those aggregators because they are thinking of turning fees on. But also, like I think if you get a multi-chain aggregator, like one of these that really starts taking off across like either like Sushi's Trident or like I mean, Hero on Metis is a small one, but like if you get like CalSwap or one of those that is just crushing the multi-chain game and you're pushing insane volumes, like then you're able to earn enough fees to kind of supplement it. But it's worth watching.
You want to go over the DEXs that you're looking to get involved with that are not yet launched? I think like Camelot, I've seen on your timeline a bunch.
Yeah, let's dive in. So like one of the reasons I've been targeting like Arbitrum DEXs is because like month over month it's one of the only chains, or I mean I know it's an L2, but like if you look at like the DeFi llama of like TVL growth over time, I believe it's up like 16% like month over month, which is pretty impressive considering how like crushed the market's been getting. So like you have to think that as all of these tokens are just like decreasing in value, somehow the TVL is still going up month over month for Arbitrum. this says like 15%, and the TVL is at like 1.6 billion. Well, there's still nearly $30 billion on Ethereum. So like I don't see like people building on Ethereum nearly as much as they used to. Like a lot of those very like next generation and like very sought after projects are launching on a lot of the L2s. I mean, Optimism has a few. I feel like Arbitrum is getting the majority of them.
Even Trump
and
launched on Polygon.
And Polygon, that's another one. And Polygon's done extremely well as well. I mean, isn't winning the TVL, I would say, fight, but like it's inking a lot of those partnerships with like different like outside companies, outside of crypto companies, so that's doing well from that standpoint. But I think whoever wins the Arbitrum DEX game is like in for a massive payday in the long term. So I mean, that's one that I've been watching pretty closely, and there's really 3 that are coming out that are worth touching on.
Okay.
Swapfish was the first one I had listed. Can you pull up Swapfish quickly? It's honestly like your pretty run of the mill, like we're gonna print as many tokens as possible kind of farm. It's literally just like I think it's a pancake swap fork.
Okay. Like, is the team good? Like, why do you think this one is potentially a winner?
So I don't know. Like I don't know the team super well. Haven't been connected with them. I don't know if I possibly think this one's a winner, but it's worth touching. The reason being is it already has 55 million at TVL. So I find that kind of weird. Like where are they getting these whales that are just coming in and putting all of their capital here? It is know your customer, and like the one thing that they have that is like a little bit unexpected from my perspective is that they have a fiat onboarding that they put in, which I feel like isn't super easy to do. So I found that kind of interesting, but like I do think like it's just super high emission. So like their kind of model is like, hey, we're gonna print like 100K plus.
They got business plan on their pre-launch list. Let's go.
I mean, it is. It's like a.
This is fresh. Yeah. Okay.
It's just like an old school like a yield farm. Like that's all it is.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, I mean, somehow it has 55 million in TVL, which kind of blows my mind and makes me think there's more to it.
And do we know where is the liquidity? Is it like is the 55 million like good shit, or is it here?
It's decent. Like if you pull up.
Oh, Mommy's on here. Oh, it's only 25K.
So like it's 55 mil liquidity. I don't know how much of that's in the native token, but like they're printing like nearly a million tokens weekly. It's like 750K actually. And then they cut that by 1% a week. But like really their model is like, hey, we're gonna lock people into like our single stake. Like they do a single stake lock for 60 days.
Oh, it's stables. Yeah, mostly stables.
Yeah.
Oh, that's easy. Okay.
But like they're printing. Like their yields are sick. If you actually go look at their yields, like very impressive. Somehow like they're getting enough people to lock. So it makes me think that there is a chance that like, hey, they have a lot of connections. A lot of people are putting a ton of capital on here. The yields are good. They did a fiat on ramp, which isn't super easy. So I feel like they're probably going to stick around. But like because of that, like there is a chance that this one does well. The only deflationary mechanism is if you lock your tokens, like part of the APY, like 10% of it ends up getting burnt. So like they do have a burning mechanism.
So how does the number go up? Like, do we get fees, or like is there a Ponzi here, or is just stake and get free fish?
If you go to the lock section, like you just get more fish. So but like I guess if like they eventually have enough swap fees that and like or enough people locked, like it burns more lock than you'd be emitting. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But like partially the reason I wanted to cover this one is like it has gotten such a large TVL in such a small time. But like I'm not very bullish on it, and I'm not personally playing it. I do think that there's a good chance that this TVL, assuming that this project continues to trend down, it's actually been somewhat flat. But if it does trend down, like a lot of this TVL will relocate to some of these other DEXs.
Oh, it's a $1 million FDV?
Yes.
Oh wow!
So, I mean,
okay.
There's a good chance it goes up. Like I mean,
so 500. Half of the market cap is in liquidity.
Exactly.
This sounds like a fun game for the degens.
Yeah. Any degens, that's perfect for you guys.
Okay.
Whoever's itching for like the old school yield farms. Camelot though, Camelot's one of the ones that like I'm super bullish on. I did a thread, but like just talking through some of the stuff that like they actually built out. It's a solidly model, but like I have a few issues like when I look at solidly models. Like they're super deflationary. Like over time, like the number is like meant to trend down because they are so inflationary, which goes against a lot of what I was talking about earlier. when it comes to taxes and things like that. There's not enough emphasis on like native liquidity. There's long lock times. Like there's bribes, but bribes
Yeah, Fish
also
got
aren't
more
always the
TVL.
most efficient. What?
Fish has more
Fish
TVL.
than Camelot. I know. So that's kind of my point. Like I think assuming like if Fish does start to fall apart, which I don't see like any cracks as of yet. Like it might be a good play for like a week, but I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
But like I think some of that might flow out if anything does happen to Fish. But we'll see. Like I mean, it's worth keeping an eye on because it does have such good TVL. But like with like Camelot though, like I mean they're doing some cool stuff. Like I really like they're doing directional fees. So like if you're a project, you can set like, hey, there's a like 1% on selling, like 0.5% on buying, so that your profit like all of your POL actually earns over time. So like you can like put maybe $1 million into POL and then earn off of fees in like actual volumes. So I mean, one, I think that's pretty cool because you can do it directionally. In most places you can't. They're doing nitro pools, which I think this concept's awesome. So like,
What is a nitro pool?
So it's you can almost gate as a project like who earns rewards. So like say you're Jones because Jones is one of their partners, and you want to reward people who are like providing liquidity, but you don't want to just give your tokens out to be dumped on the market. So you can gate who gets those rewards and say only people who are staking and locking for 6 months have over like $2,500 in the pool and also are like single staking on our site. Like all of those three, if
nice.
you check all three of those boxes, then you get Grail token from Camelot and also Jones. So like it makes sure that you're
That's
like
fun.
the emissions you're paying out are going to long-term holders, or you can kind of set some of those parameters. But like the other thing that you can do is like if you use the directional fees of like, hey, like 1% on sales, 0.5% on buys. Say you're a project like Camelot does this, they have like $4 million of liquidity, like their POL actually earns like so like say there's I don't know $1 million in volume, they might earn 10K, but then they can use that 10K to bootstrap those nitro pools and like put their tokens in there and like pay LP rewards. So technically, if you have profit like POL, project owned liquidity, and then like also use directional fees, like your rewards should pay for themselves. So I mean, I like it because those are pretty cool concepts and way different than most DEXs. And like they targeted different.
I like when
liquidity.
teams
So
do that. Yeah, it's like they actually innovated. They didn't just fork. They came up with some cool ideas and things people can try to stake. That's why I like DeFi. It's like you fork and change something. You fork and change something. You fork and change something, and then naturally we'll find the model that works the best just through like all the different experiments.
And honestly, this checks like almost all the boxes for me. It really does. I'm so bullish on like the model they put together. I don't know if they'll be the ones to nail it, but like the other thing that they did that I think is extremely smart is they targeted a bunch of native projects, like 25% of their supplies for ecosystems, reserves, development fund, and partnerships. So if you add up like all of those, it's about 25%. But the idea is like they're incentivizing, saying like, hey, we'll give you 1% of our DEX or like total supply if you host your liquidity on our platform. So then like all of these projects, like I think Jones is one of them, the SpareX is one of them, GMX is one of them. But like they're like saying like, hey, if you guys work with us, like do some nitro pools, like host some of your liquidity with us, then like one, it boosts your TVL a ton. It creates like all of these projects that have vested interest in your DEX doing well. And then also like you're getting TVL that's sticky. Like you're not just printing rewards to people who are going to dump them, because a lot of these rewards are going back to projects who hold them in their treasury.
Right.
So
And
like,
do you know if they did a VC round? Like, right now it
No,
says
they
DAO
did
Treasury
not.
has nothing in it. So do they have money? Like, how are they going to build this business for like 10 years?
so they did a public sale that was like, I think they raised like 4 million if I'm
Oh,
remembering off the
okay.
top of
So
my
they
head.
raised
So there's
four.
some.
How come the DAO Treasury has nothing in it then?
Well, I think it would. So like that doesn't make full sense to me if I'm being honest. So they did like 4 million. Some of it's to bootstrap those rewards of like if you go to like XGRAL and dividends, like up at the top. So they bootstrapped XGRAL for it's either 6 or 12 months, where they used like 40% of the public sale or something.
Oh, they
like
just
that.
give it back to you slowly.
So they give it back to you slowly. Yes, and then like
Okay.
12.5% of swap fees go to like that XGRAL. And also like if you're redeeming, like this is another one of the mechanisms that I love. Like the way that they do LP rewards. So 20% of it you get in Grail and 80% you get in X Grail. And that's kind of like ESGMX. Like it vests over time or you can redeem
okay.
it. So
yeah.
So like most of their emissions are like in X Grail, which to redeem 1-for-1 X Grail takes 6 months. If you wanted to do it like quick as possible is in 15 days. But if you do that, you lose half your X Grail. So you only get 0.5 to 1.
I see.
But
Yeah, it
like
looks like
that
they raised
0.5.
4. Yeah, you're
Good.
right. 4 mil and 25 mil FDV. And what's it currently at? 4 mil and
It's
21
just
mil
under.
FDV. Oh, so you can still buy it like just lower than the public sale. Okay.
Yep. So like all of the emissions for the most part, you're saying 80% of the emissions are in X Grail. So like those people are becoming long-term holders because it's not easy to like redeem that for Grail. So like emissions are going to people who are long-term. Like if they are like trying to farm and dump, then they have to take a 0.5% or 50% hit on their position. And like if they do that, say like they redeem in 15 days, then that 0.5 that they lose gets burnt. So if you look at info, there's 21 burnt already, and that doesn't account for anybody who redeemed right away.
Right.
So there's probably 40 or 50 Grail redeemed or burnt already. And like if you look at like monthly emissions, it's like what I have 350, 950 across Grail and X Grail, and only 70 is Grail. So they're going to be burning more Grail than like they're emitting for at least liquid
And
Grail.
to get this higher APR, like the yellow number, I need to stake Grail. I need to have X Grail or something like that. Is it like VE curve type thing?
There's a few different things. Like you can lock your LPs. So like I mentioned earlier for like nitro pools and stuff, you can lock your LPs for like 6 months or like you can max lock and get a higher APR, which is nice because once again you're going to people who like you can get higher rewards if you don't plan to leave that LP. So like you're once again rewarding the longer term TVL, but also like you can stake X Grail and boost your pool. So like it gives you another utility for X Grail. But
I see.
the way I look at this is they have a massive amount of liquidity. It's like 4 million. They're doing all kinds of burns with these redemptions. Like anybody new who buys into the project, there isn't a ton of utility for Grail. So most of them are going to turn it into X Grail and stake. And like the amount of liquid Grail is just going to keep plummeting. Like if you go to info, like where you were, there's like 38% of all like Grail is in X Grail right now. And it was like 30% or 32% or something like that like a week ago. So like eventually like more and more Grail is going to be pulled out of LP and the price is going to like go because everybody's in X Grail. But with that, all of the LPs like APRs are going to go up. Like the amount of fees that people earn like off of swaps are going to go up because liquidity is going to get deeper.
Yeah. Fees seem low.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like 0.5% of volume. It looks like to make 1K, 200K volume. I think they clearly need to get more liquidity for things people want to swap. Like right now, their staking pools are you're right, they're like more ecosystem projects, and it's not like they have high liquidity compared to the others. I was thinking like, hey, which of these farms am I gonna join? Right now, like if I look at the high yield ones, like I would probably I usually look for like ETH, ST ETH, or like USDC, USDT, yeah, something like this. But it's like 1.7 to 5%. Like I probably wouldn't join this, but I guess I'm not the target user. The target user is probably like the Jones holder, the GMX holder, the Umami holder that prefers to take ongoing like income instead of IL. So yeah, we can see how it goes. It seems like they're taking it slower and more thoughtfully than most, which is good, right?
Yeah, I mean, like Lido's there. Like, I mean, STETH's there, and you can get up to 40% if you lock it. But, I mean, the way I look at this is, I think the price is going to continue to rise. Like, I really do like this model. I think it's just going to continue to burn, and there's going to be an inflection point where like they're burning more than they're actually emitting, and from there it's directly up, and then like all of these yields are going to like skyrocket with it. So like to me it makes a lot of sense. And also like if you're one of these projects, like say you're GMX, and instead of like coming to Camelot, like what are your other options for your liquidity? GMX has super deep liquidity, but if you're like a lot of places you have to pay for bribes. Like why would you not work with like Camelot where they're going to give you like a piece of the actual DEX as well as emissions. So like
Yeah.
I think a lot more projects are going to go that route, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
It'd be good for RB season. Right now it's early, right? Depends on their biz dev and depends. Like I wouldn't buy it for fundamentals. Like they're not getting wow, this is making a lot of money or something like that. But based on how they've designed it, it's obviously took thought. It's obviously much better than just like some naked fork. And if their biz dev is good, then it could have some long-term value here. But the thing is, once you do that kind of stuff, where you promise this person free emissions, that person free emissions, then at some point, unless you get to PMF, unless you get to like, okay, everyone wants to be here, new projects, you can't offer them the same thing because you've already given them to old projects.
100%. And I think that's where some of the DAO will come in heavily too. But I mean, I agree. But I think the important part is like getting a ton of users early and like the more native liquidity of these Arbitrum projects that they can lock in long term. Because once people are locking for 6 to 12 months, like, I mean, people can't like pull out their actual liquidity, take profits, but like you become extremely sticky. So I like the model from that standpoint. But
yeah,
I'm very bullish on it. I like the team. I like the model. The other one to touch on Arbitrum just quickly is Orbital. Like it's actually came after, I would say, the Camelot DEX. The Plutus and DopeX teams decided they were going to launch a DEX. It
Oh,
was
really?
also a Solidate fork. Yeah, so they announced it. I put a link to the Twitter in
our group chat.
What sheet I sent in the note sheet I sent you, but I can drop it in the group chat. But like they haven't dropped docs or anything like that, but they said bribes are going to be ready day one. So like this one's like worth keeping an eye on too. I think to me it seems a little rushed. Like I hold like Plutus, I hold some DopeX stuff. Like it seems like they're kind of pushing for DEX, and like I don't think that's like their main business. So I'm excited to see how it goes, but like I'm not really fully sure like where their goals are here. But I mean, it's definitely one to like keep an eye on because
this is
Plutus
interesting
and
because
DopeX alone.
Yeah, they already have the users, so they can kind of just drag them. This was always the thesis
Exactly.
when I saw like Olympus and things like that forming. If they hadn't like just all died out, if they had managed to retain tons of users, I always thought like, oh, these people just launch all these apps to their own users and then retain their own users and collect their fees instead of pushing them into another ecosystem. So if this like DopeX group does control a lot of people, then they could just launch their own DEX instead, right? And bring all the users there, and then the other projects want to come there. It's like a very similar model to like Apple, right? We already own the person with the iPhone. Why are we integrating with other watches? Why don't we just make our own watch and then bring our users to that watch and make the money off of it?
That's exactly it. And I think it's an immediate revenue stream I think it helps Plutus a lot. So Plutus, it's like immediate revenue stream because they're going to have PLS Orb. So they're just going to wrap like the governance token and probably take in a huge amount of supply. And then they're going to do bribes off of it. So like Plutus users, like PLS users immediately get revenue. But also like I think it helps supplement a lot of their, like one of my big issues with a lot of these wrap tokens, like Plutus is obviously like they wrap a ton of things. Like I hate like the risk involved with those when they depeg, like I say peg, like they're no longer 1-to-1. Like they're 0.6 to 1 because of liquidity and like people selling in and out. If you have an orb token or like Camelot or like whatever, you can kind of supplement some of that liquidity with a secondary token outside of PLS. So like if they have orb and PLS rewards being paid to like, I don't know, PLS Jones and like SLP, like LPs, then they're way more likely to stay at 1-to-1. From a liquidity standpoint. Does that make sense? So like I think it helps them a lot. But that one's worth watching, and I don't have a ton of info on it, but EtherSoul's been talking about it a bit. Like they did just launch the Twitter. They have like 1 or 2 like mediums out on it, but not a ton of information to go through yet, but worth following.
Sweet.
But that's really it on ARB DEXs. And
that was a lot of juice. Yeah, good section. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
What was the next thing we wanted to touch on? We're a bit over on time, so we should probably run through this stuff really quickly. But let's go through
I don't have
Ren.
a ton on the last piece. Like Ren Bitcoin's just make sure any of you guys listening, you guys do own any renBTC to get out of the pools on Curve and redeem it because I think it's like as of tomorrow or the next couple days, those pools are all worth. Ren Bitcoin's technically worth like 0.
Yeah.
You can't really get out of it. They're sunsetting it as a token.
Yeah. the key here is it's not just if you hold renBTC, but if you're in any BTC pool that has renBTC as liquidity, you want to get out because everyone will be dumping their renBTC for your side after today if anyone's left holding it. So you don't want to be LPing against it either.
Yeah. Or you're going to get stuck with all the worthless renBTC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then next thing we want to touch on, we can just run through them quickly, was Parallel. Did you see that they started doing prime syncs? So far,
Did not.
yeah, so they created two things. One was you could take a Parallel card and you can pay some prime tokens to get it like autographed on chain. And the other one is you can take one prime and get one random card. In total, they've gotten like 213,000 prime destroyed for the get one random card and 290,000 prime destroyed for like the signature cards. So total 500,000 prime has been deleted already. But this is interesting because it's the first time I've seen someone do like a token launch model where the token is non-tradable, but you can use it. So what they're trying to do is they're being like, if you're farming prime, come use your prime. We're not going to make it liquid, so you can't go to like a DEX and sell it, but here's a cool use case, and let's see if people are interested in that use case. And what happened was people actually used it, and I think that's pretty cool. I do think they're kind of fudging the numbers a little bit, because what they're doing is they're basing it off percent of claimed prime, but claimed prime is a very different number than the actual amount of prime that's been farmed. So to get the farmed prime, I think it's, you go to the Echelon site, what is it? It's like where they do the prime staking. But yeah, here, where you can stake your prime, it's like the people that click the claim button, you know, where they've got it. I don't have a claim button because I don't have a wallet with prime in it, right, connected to this. But yeah, it's not the total amount that they farmed. But I would say that this is clearly showing us that prime will have utility. It won't just be like a native token. They're going to try to make it like valuable and useful. So if you're interested in prime, like there might be a trade here. So right now, if you stake a prime key, you get a piece of the prime pool, and the amount of prime pool for prime keys, there's still 7 million left. And depends on what people price prime at. I think the total amount of the total supply of prime was it 100 million? So yeah, it was 100 million. So $10 prime would be a 1 billion cap, which is I think what they raised at last, which I think is obviously crazy right now. But I don't think we're gonna get like $1 prime because very little of it will be circulating. So in my mind, I'm pricing it in like $3 to $5 range. Obviously, it's just like a total random guess. But like if prime was like $5, then it'd be like 7 million prime left for prime keys times 5 is like 35. So $35 million should be like the total amount of prime USD that prime keys will get. And I think they trade at like much lower. Yeah, they trade at like 12K each, and they're 1,500. So if you do like 35 million over 1,500, sorry, what is that? 35, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1,023K. So you're buying prime. By buying a prime key, you're basically buying prime at like $2.50 right now. So if you are bullish on that, if you look at that and think like, yeah, the prime is being used, I think it'll be good. Then a prime key might be a decent trade, is what I was thinking. The other option there is Parallel DAO, Paragon DAO.
Yeah, I would probably do that just off of more of a managed position. But
yeah,
I haven't kept up with it.
They've been doing some good stuff, but like just based on the treasury alone, they have this good page, this like financials page here, where you can see what's in their treasury, and they're estimating that they're going to get, their prime projection. They think they're going to get, well, that doesn't help. Here, $10 million of prime. So I think they're getting about a million prime, and they're pricing it at $10. So I would half this based on theirs. But if you essentially half it to $5 per prime, then you end up being, the PDT price should be between like 9 and 12 cents, and it currently trades at 6 cents. So there is some like RFV type thing there, but it's a bit convoluted because you're also pricing in various like masterpieces and NFTs, but some of the NFTs earn prime, so they're priced based on their prime. So I would like discount this a bit before doing that. But the other interesting thing is if you stake your PDT, then you get a piece of the prime that they farm directly once the prime becomes tradable. And not all the PDT is staked. So there's this like leverage play where let's say only 30% of the PDT is staked. If they're going to give like half the prime or something like that, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, to the stakers, then you're getting like more than you would get just by holding a piece of the treasury, you know? So something interesting there, worth looking into if you're interested in that ecosystem. But that's coming around the corner and something I'm keeping my eye on because they said January is when they expect to unlock Prime, and January is like, 2 weeks away? So exciting times for crypto gaming because I think this is like the game everyone's kind of been waiting for to prove if this stuff works or not.
I so badly I want like a plugin, either to like Google Calendar or just like a dashboard of like an app or an application where I can like click on all of the NFT projects I want to follow and then give me like, hey, here's when we're doing like a Twitter Spaces. Here's like all of our upcoming launches. Here's like I struggle so bad to keep up with.
Sounds like something you can build. You can make it MarketCapping public good, marketcapping.com with the calendar. We can hire a little intern or something to keep it up.
Yeah, anybody who wants to intern and reach out. But I just struggle so hard to keep up with NFTs. Like I don't know. Somebody just dropped an app in the chat, but like it kills me because I miss all of my NFT stuff, and then I get bearish or I just get like upset that like, hey, I'm missing so much, and it's my own fault. But like, there's no easy way to keep up with it. Like, you need to be an active investor in this stuff. Like, I can't imagine having a full-time job and like trying to keep up with like all the positions that I have. Like, it's just impossible. So either I need to cut positions or like it needs to like adapt, or these projects need to make it easier for users. But I'm only going on that rant because I've struggled to keep up with Parallel.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we should probably call it. There's a few more things I wanted to go through, but I'll save them for next time because we're like 30 minutes over already.
Yeah, I'm good to call it. The only other thing that's worth that I wanted to mention and got a quick ping on is Y2K. I know I've talked about it here in the past. It's on Arbitrum, and it's like a market for hedging risk in a lot of the stable coins, and it did extremely well right after, like last time I think it launched and we talked about it.
Right.
All kinds of like all the FTX stuff happened, so it kind of crushed and like was like the most well-timed launch I think I've ever seen. Well, really on purpose, but like their token launch is really, I believe, today and tomorrow. So
oh wow, okay, that's good. So, yeah, it'll be fun to watch.
So people who were either used it or are looking for like new projects launching on Arbitrum, like you have all of that happening. With
I would also look at sentiment on Arbitrum if people are looking for
Arbitrum
projects.
Sentiment.
Yeah. I think Gearbox is getting a lot of press, but Arbitrum's gonna be like the Gearbox of Arbitrum if you want to think about it that way.
Yeah, I'm not a big Gearbox guy for personal reasons, but I love like what Sentiment's building.
Yeah, same.
Big fan. So I mean,
they got to work on the UI a bit, but once they've cleaned it up and made it easier to understand, I think it'll do much better.
100% agree. Well, I think that's a good place to call it. We'll try and do another one in the next couple weeks or so.
Yeah.
We'll do it kind of around your schedule, probably after the holidays. I would say maybe fresh new year.
Sounds good.
Do another episode.
Awesome. Thanks for coming out, everyone. If you have anything else you want to touch on, just hit us up on Twitter. Peace.